Hi. Before we start, I want to say one thing. This isn't a motivational talk. This isn't a productivity hack. And it's definitely not a delete TikTok and change your life story. It's just a quiet reflection. Recently, I noticed how often I reach for my phone without thinking, how easily hours disappear into scrolling, and how rarely I sit with my own thoughts, without background noise. So I decided to try something simple. I spent one full day without TikTok. In this episode, I'm sharing what that day actually felt like. The boredom, the discomfort, the unexpected clarity, and the quiet inspiration that appeared when the screen went silent. If you're listening right now, I invite you to slow down for a moment. Let's begin. If you're still here, thank you for listening. I'm not saying social media is bad. I'm not saying you need to quit anything. But maybe, just maybe, we all need a little more space to hear ourselves think. If this episode resonated with you, you might want to try your own quiet day, not as a challenge, not as a rule, just as an experiment. What happens when you stop scrolling, just for one day? In this episode, I share my personal experience of spending 24 hours without TikTok, not as a challenge, not as a detox, just a quiet experiment.
How I spent one day without TikTok. The decision to spend one full day without TikTok didn't come as a dramatic moment. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't a promise to change my life. And it definitely wasn't one of those new me starting Monday situations. It happened quietly, almost accidentally. The night before, I was lying in bed, scrolling through TikTok like I always do. One video turned into another, then another, then another. Funny videos, random videos, useful ones, completely meaningless ones. Everything blended into one endless stream. At some point, I noticed something strange. I felt tired. Not physically tired, mentally tired. It felt like I had lived through an entire day, even though I had done absolutely nothing. I checked the time. Almost an hour had passed, an entire hour. And I couldn't remember a single thing I had watched. No memory, no thought worth keeping, nothing that stayed with me. And that's when a very simple question appeared in my head. What would happen if I didn't open TikTok for just one day? Not forever. Not deleting the app. Not some extreme digital detox. Just one normal day. Without scrolling. Without endless content. Without that constant background noise in my head. Immediately, excuses appeared. It's going to be boring. What if I miss something important? I don't even spend that much time there. But at the same time, there was curiosity. I genuinely wanted to see how much TikTok actually affected my day if I removed it for just 24 hours. So before going to sleep, I made a simple decision. Tomorrow, no TikTok. No just 5 minutes. No exceptions. I had no idea that the hardest part wouldn't be avoiding the app, but figuring out what my day would look like when the screen finally went quiet. Morning without scrolling. I woke up the next morning with that familiar feeling, like the day had already started without me. My phone was right next to my bed. My hand reached for it automatically before I was even fully awake. My thumb already knew where to tap. And then I remembered. Today was the day without TikTok. I stopped, put the phone down, and just stared at the ceiling. For the first few seconds, everything felt normal. Then a strange feeling appeared, like I had forgotten something important. The same feeling you get when you leave the house and suddenly wonder if you forgot your keys. Everything was technically fine, but inside I felt uneasy. One thought kept repeating in my head.
So what do I do now?
Before, the answer was simple. The morning started with scrolling. One video, then another, and somehow the day began on its own. Now I had to start it myself. I got up, went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, washed my face. Normally, all of this happened with background noise from my phone, voices, music, other people's thoughts. This time it was quiet. So quiet that I could actually hear my own thoughts. I made myself some tea and sat down at the table. And that's when it got uncomfortable. Boredom you can't escape. I was sitting there with my cup of tea, not knowing what to do with myself. My phone was right next to me, and every couple of minutes I glanced at it. Not because I wanted to check something specific, but because I was used to filling every pause with content. Let me just check the time, I thought, unlocking the screen. My finger automatically moved toward the TikTok icon. I stopped myself at the last second, and suddenly something became very clear. I don't know how to be bored anymore. Every free moment used to be filled instantly. Waiting, pauses, silence. Everything turned into scrolling. Now waiting was just waiting. No distraction. No dopamine hit. No escape. The boredom wasn't sad or depressing. Like silence in a conversation where no one knows what to say next. I tried to start doing things. Opened my laptop. Closed it. Walked around the room. Sat down. Stood up. Checked the fridge even though I wasn't hungry. Half the day passed, and I genuinely had no idea what to do. That realization was uncomfortable. I had always felt like I was busy, like I didn't have enough time. But now, without constant stimulation, my brain didn't want to work. It wanted entertainment, not effort. At some point, a thought appeared that I couldn't scroll away from. What actually interests me when I'm not consuming other people's content? And that question just stayed there. Eventually, I got tired of feeling stuck in that strange in-between state. I sat down at my desk. Not for a second. Not just to check something. For real. I opened my notes app and saw a to-do list that had been there for weeks, maybe months. I used to add things to it just so I wouldn't forget, but I rarely went back to it. That list felt like a storage room for postponed life. I read it slowly. Clean and organize my desk. Sort files on my laptop. Go through my wardrobe and remove clothes I no longer wear. Cook something light and pleasant for myself. Reply to messages I kept postponing. Finish a text I had abandoned. Write down ideas that had been living in my head. Finally do the things I always said someday about. Usually this list overwhelmed me. This time it felt calm. I started with the easiest thing, cleaning my desk. I removed unnecessary items, threw away old papers, organized everything. It didn't take that long, but as the space became cleaner, my mind felt clearer too. Then I opened my wardrobe. I took out clothes that had been hanging there untouched for years. I tried things on, folded some, put others aside. Letting go of those clothes felt symbolic, like letting go of old versions of myself. After that, I went to the kitchen. I cooked something simple, a light meal, a small dessert. Slowly, without rushing. Without watching anything at the same time. I paid attention to the process, cutting, mixing, tasting. And then I sat down and actually ate. No phone, no background noise. And for some reason, the food tasted better. After that, I returned to my laptop and sorted my files. Old documents, drafts, screenshots. I deleted, organized, renamed. With every unnecessary file I removed, it felt like I was freeing space inside my head too. I replied to messages I had been avoiding. Nothing terrible happened. No one was angry. Most of my anxiety had existed only in my imagination. Then I opened a text I had abandoned weeks ago. Without constant distractions, the words started flowing again. Not perfectly, but they flowed. And that was enough. At some point, I realized I was doing things not because I had to, but because I wanted to keep going. I started writing down ideas, random thoughts, future projects, topics that actually excited me. Creativity appeared quietly, not as a dramatic burst, but as a warm, steady feeling. I felt inspired, not by content, not by trends, not by algorithms, by my own thoughts. By the evening, I didn't feel exhausted. I felt full, calm, grounded. My mind was quieter but not empty. It felt deeper, clearer. When I went to bed, my phone was right there. I could have opened TikTok. No one was stopping me. But I didn't. Because that day taught me something important. We often think we don't have time, but what we really lack is silence. And sometimes, to reconnect with yourself, your creativity, and your life. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.